2 days ago, are you aware of the son of Sinwar who now actively speaks out against Hamas?
Is Sinwar the guy where they bombed him and blew his arm off? He was like the chief strategic planner of October 7th or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy. So his son is speaking out against Hamas. No, I haven't heard about that.
Okay, there's a lot you need to know there, but essentially he was imprisoned. He saw all the horrendous things that were going on in Palestine, a lot that were orchestrated by Hamas, and now he actively goes across the world speaking against them and trying to support Israel.
Okay.
So, just 2 days ago, he was in Toronto, and I went to his talk. And, before this, I was very hopeful and optimistic regarding the overall population of Palestine and, how it's not necessarily how they could possibly be able to see the crimes that's going on. But he really put into perspective how if you don't support Hamas or you aren't in favor or oppose them at all, you just get killed. So the only people who are currently inhabiting Gaza, for example, are those who support Hamas and are actively perpetrating the persecution of Jews and Israelis.
Okay. Israel literally arrested somebody who leaked the rape in that prison, and so the idea that I don't think Israel is like Israel, they're not rounding up people and gunning them down in the streets like some of those paramilitary or whatever groups in Gaza were after the ceasefire, which has been violated countless times already, was negotiated. They're not doing that, but the idea that Israel is not ideologically committed to annexing the West Bank and Gaza, and that they don't actually push for greater Israel, and that they tolerate dissent is completely laughable when bunch of IDF soldiers rape a person in prison. It gets found out. They were going to try them, and instead nearly an insurrection happens. So we had right to rape protests, and then the whistleblower or whatever that reveals it gets punished by Israel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with everything that's happening, but when there's an active risk of the people in Palestine and Gaza, especially those in Hamas who are actively launching rockets into Israel every day, and
in response to a continuous genocide and an occupation, living in a concentration camp, it's the kind of behavior you would sadly expect to see.
How many times were they offered a state?
How many times were the negotiations blown up? Every time? Pretty sure it was every time.
I mean, they were offered a state.
Literally, the Camp David Accord negotiations continued after they were allegedly just disbanded, but the conversation only occurred between Arafat and Clinton's administration. Israel just took no part in it. In fact, during that time, Israel had a prime minister that was committed to the idea of a two-state solution. And do you know what happened to
him? Was this the one who was assassinated?
Yeah, he got assassinated, and it was Ben-Gvir that was the one leading the charge for that, essentially calling for his death. And then that's what happened with the ultra radical Zionists or whatever.
Yeah. But I guess my
Israel killed their own prime minister when they had a prime minister that was talking about a two-state solution, and the guy they currently have is just a lying sack of shit. He purposely creates propaganda in English where he talks about how Israel is committed to the peace and security of the Palestinian people and blah blah blah. And then he puts out stuff in Hebrew where he says, yeah, so we're going to permanently occupy Gaza. We're going to expand settlements in the West Bank. And here's my map of Greater Israel. We're going to start conquering Jordan as well while we're at it. He's very good at propaganda for the Western world. He openly brags about it all the time.
Yeah, so what do you propose Israel does? Because currently they have a group of people who are committed to ending them, and
they should stop trying to end them.
So you think if Israel just stopped fighting,
like the Catholic and Protestant civil wars that were going on between Ireland and the UK, there was absolutely no hope in sight for any of that, because you just had two sides that kept saying, "Nuh-uh, you guys started it," and shit like that. But then one day they just said, "We're not doing this anymore," and now they coexist in peace. Israel and Palestine, I think, can coexist together. Now, I completely support Hamas relinquishing basically all their power. And actually, so does Hamas. They have over and over agreed to, like, the current ceasefire agreement has that stipulation in it. Hamas has to forfeit its governing rule over Gaza. But the peace deal that they agreed on, whenever that was, several weeks ago, is literally the exact same one that's been on the table for over a year at this point. It was always Israel that nuked it. They assassinated the peace negotiators in Qatar, or tried to. I don't know if they actually killed anybody that they were targeting in that attack or not. It was just sabotaged over and over and over again. The deal that they currently have is the deal that's been on the table the whole time. Oh, sorry. You're asking me what Israel. So that I just basically said Gaza. So Israel should stop committing a genocide. That would be a start. And then Netanyahu absolutely has to go, and he would be gone, but he keeps, every time his trial or whatever is supposed to restart for the corruption, he goes, "Oh, well, I'm declaring a national security emergency, so actually my trial is delayed now." Like, he's done that multiple times ever since this conflict started.
So what would you think would happen if Israel stopped fighting?
It would have to be, so it would have to be more, there'd have to be more elements to it than Israel just like saying we give up, or like we're just going to stop, for example. But if you actually track when there have been temporary ceasefires, humanitarian pauses, or whatever, like during this conflict, that's when counterattacks or offensive attacks, whatever, from Gaza into Israel, that's been the only time that those have stopped. And like, we're currently in a ceasefire, right?
Wow.
Has Hamas launched any attacks into Israel since the ceasefire started?
Yeah, they killed a few Israeli soldiers and initially broke the ceasefire.
In Israel?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. I wouldn't be super surprised if that has happened once, twice, or a few times. But Israel has violated the ceasefire dozens of times, and they're bombing other countries as well.
Usually that's in retaliation.
So they weren't attacked by anybody. Like, they just bought Beirut, I think it was, like literally yesterday or whatever. In response to what? They're just going to call it like a preemptive strike or something like that. They're like, oh, well, they were planning on doing something. But I just don't trust anything that they do. The hospital assaults, they claim that they had reasonable suspicion or whatever for something going on there. Literally all of that turned out to be a lie. Even that 3D graphic that they used for the Nasser hospital, or whichever one it was, we found out later that was just reused footage from years and years and years ago. And like the idea that, oh, this is some sort of strategic military operation. When they leave the hospitals, they cut the power cords of things like the ultrasound equipment. What's that meant to do other than collective punishment of Palestinians? Nothing. It's just... So, Anyways,
Um, yeah, but when Hamas has actively come out and said that they want the execution of all Jews, Israelis, and eventually the Western world,
then get rid of
right?
Hamas. I'm okay with that.
How? But they're intertwined with Palestine itself.
Kind of, but if you're if you lived in a place where the neighboring country mowed the lawn regularly for decades and decades, what would you think if a neighboring country killed your entire family? What would you think?
Can you rephrase the analogy?
What would I no, I don't think I will actually. What would you think if a foreign country bombed the apartment you lived in and killed your entire family?
I mean, I'd be upset.
Okay, what sorts of lengths would you do to exact revenge?
Um,
Almost anything, right?
Not necessarily. I guess it's
Well,
not
not
really who I
necessarily,
am.
but it's not surprising that there would be people that would do that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that.
Okay. Well, if Israel for once stops doing that, then you would absolutely expect this disgusting ideological belief that a lot of the Hamas militants or whatever have would evaporate because they lose their legitimacy.
Not really, because what they're like. This information now is coming from the son of Sinwar, who actively grew up in Palestine, surrounded by Hamas officials and propaganda. So, in schools, they're taught to hate Jews. They're taught that Israel doesn't have a right to exist, and
Which
they're
is the
literally
same kind of thing that Zionists say about Palestinians. Even Americans say this. Our ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, says there's actually no such thing as Palestine. There's Judea
yeah,
and Samaria, and that land was promised to them by God.
yeah.
Literally,
Well, I don't agree with
literally, the
that.
concept of Israel is, yeah, they did a genocide and killed all the people that were living there and replaced it with an ethno state. That is the ethos of that
Like,
religion, essentially.
are you going back to biblical times or like
Yes.
1947?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
kinds
So
of stuff that Israeli officials invoke when they talk about the current conflict they have.
sure, yeah. Like I've talked to my rabbis and all the other Jews around me about like all these issues I have with the Tanakh specifically. Like I'm not religious; I'm an agnostic atheist, but um, I mean, it definitely does go back, and I don't really think there's a good excuse for that. But at the way the world is now, after
Do you remember that lady who, when they asked her about the Zionist woman or whatever Israeli woman, the young one, not that lady that's always wearing the bandana, I can't remember her name, but well, it's probably not a bandana, but whatever, the headscarf. But they asked this woman, what do we do about this conflict? And she said, well, when you kill the terrorists, you also have to kill their children because the children grow up to become Hamas terrorists. Do you
well,
remember
not if
that?
there are any terrorists.
What?
No, I'm saying that if there are no terrorists, then their children will not grow up to be terrorists.
Well, yeah, but that's what she said. Like
I know,
that kind of belief it's rare, but it doesn't take that many. If only 1% of your population believes in that kind of horrendous thing, well, those would be the kind of people that would probably join the military and would sign off on those kinds of things.
right, but what you have to understand is on the other side, like 90% of Palestinians agree with the destruction of Israel and the execution
I
of Jews.
100% do not believe that at all.
Because otherwise, they're given a way out. Are they not?
What?
I mean, they have other options, right? But like I said, if they go against Hamas, they get killed. So almost everyone who's there does support Hamas. And
Maybe by coercion.
Two things real quick. One, in the spirit of Black Friday, for the next 2 weeks, my entire store is 15% off. Also, I created a ton of new designs, and you can now get new t-shirts in sizes from small to 3XL and in up to 8 different colors. Click the link in the description to check that out.
I mean, yeah, but they actively are in support of Hamas regardless.
Support for Hamas goes down when um, Israeli atrocities against Palestinians go down.
But every time they've stopped fighting, Hamas has regrouped and gathered arms and launched another attack.
The fight so that just speaks to the fact that this war, what Israel is telling you the war is a complete ruse. They know that it has no hope, and they don't care. Their goal, I think, very clearly has been expulsion the entire time. And the strategic military goal, first of all, was always a lie, and second of all, isn't working. They're not getting rid of Hamas. They haven't been admitting that for a long time. They claim, and it's not just because occasionally they stop fighting. They've known this whole time that they're not actually getting to Hamas, that they're actually causing recruitment to go up by carrying on the conflict in the way that they're doing it. If Israel put boots on the ground in Gaza and was doing some sort of targeted military attack, like a storming the beaches of Normandy type of thing, and yes, there was something close to maybe getting on the order of a 1-to-1 civilian to military or whatever you want to call it, death rate, then I would think that's a travesty, but I would understand and sympathize with the way they're doing it and the reasons they're going about doing it. But that's not what they're doing. They're sitting in buildings, pushing buttons, killing 10-to-1 civilians versus combatants, and blockading it. And the IDF is completely complicit in all of that. They go and act as bodyguards for civilians that are blocking aid to going in. And then you have what's going on in the West Bank, violent settlers going in, taking farms from people who can't retaliate, because if they do anything, the IDF soldiers that are standing around waiting for something to happen will kill or arrest them for defending themselves.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with this, but something I don't think you understand is how this conflict roots back all the way to.
Oh, sorry, I have to ban a Nazi real quick. Agent Noli. There we go.
Okay.
And by Nazi, I mean a particular kind of Zionist, because there's no difference at this point.
Okay. What was I saying? The hatred of Israel and Jews really goes back to 1947, where
Yep.
Specifically the what's the word? What am I
Nakba?
forgetting? Pardon?
The Nakba?
No, I'm specifically talking about when Israel was created and they purchased land from owners who had tenants who were then kicked out because they purchased the land, and those people obviously were very upset. But I mean, they didn't do it in an illegal manner or such.
Yeah, it was technically legal, but it was extremely fucked up because the Arabs that were living there were just living in it. They were living on the border of the Ottoman Empire, and there wasn't a state there, and the land ownership was just kind of actually a foreign concept. It was kind of a little bit like Native Americans are like, well, you don't own the land, you use the land, and like you have your own farm plot or whatever, but it's not like there are no deeds, it's not owned or whatever. But then what started happening was wealthy Arabs that were, I don't know, connected to Jordan, or like it's so weird to think that the Ottoman Empire existed during World War I, but people that had connections to that, they bought the land not with any regard for who lives there, but then they started selling it to Israeli settlers that then started moving there. And so in slow motion, all these Arabs are looking around and they're like, what is happening here? And so so there's this, just culturally, there's this deep asymmetry between what was going on kind of early on with respect to that. Yes.
But then it really goes back to then there just being a deep, like seated hatred for the Jews and Israel within many groups, um, which really leads to this issue. Like, even if they stopped fighting, I don't believe that there would be um, like, there still would be a massive anti-Zionist, Jewish, anti-Israeli group in Palestine, no matter what Israel did if they, like, backed off.
I think that's possible, that sentiment would exist. But again, we do have, like, we see a historical record of, I mean, probably the best example to use is what was going on between Ireland and Northern Ireland and the UK in those wars. Like, do you know anything about that? I know very little about it, but do you know anything
Yeah, I
about
would
it?
say I'm quite ignorant on those events.
So, I mean, it was horrendous. There were terrorist groups like the IRA, which is like the PLO or Hamas, right? And there were car bombings, hundreds of them a year. Maybe not hundreds a year, but there were hundreds to thousands of them over many years. There were parts in city, like in Dublin and Belfast or whatever, like you just literally could not go there if you were a Protestant, for example, or you couldn't go to wherever if you're a Catholic. And this went on for years, and so many people were killed. Sunday, Bloody Sunday, that song by U2 is about this conflict. And this was going on as recently as the 80s. And now all of a sudden, it's just like you literally can't imagine getting on a ship and going from Wales to Ireland and there being any kind of a problem. And it just evaporated when the conflict ended, because when the conflict ended, then the legitimacy behind the resistance group disappears. Because, like, well, wait a minute, but they're not trying to kill me or persecute me anymore, and our sovereignty or whatever is intact. So why should I? The only reason that a group like that would have any legitimacy is if you can somehow convince them, well, yeah, but the past injustices still exist, and what we should do is actually go there and take everything that's theirs. And people just actually don't really have a stomach for that without mass propaganda and something to legitimize the mass propaganda. And if the conflict ends, then the legitimacy behind all that propaganda, I think, evaporates. And it wouldn't happen immediately. But what happens is people die, luckily. Horrible people die. And then the next generation grows up, and all they ever know is, well, yeah, there is no conflict, and we actually do have our own state, and our neighboring country doesn't doesn't control what goods flow in and out of our country. And I think the apartheid needs to end in the West Bank and other parts as well. And then when people grow up and that's all they know, then, or you can look at South Africa, for example, that would be another good example. It's definitely not perfect, but it sure as hell is a lot better than it was.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but I think it's not just an issue with Hamas and Palestine. Like, yes, it is very prevalent there, but across much of the Middle East, there are many other people who share the same sentiment, regardless of
much of it inspired by the Israeli treatment of Palestinians. Have you read Bin Laden's letter about why he attacked America?
You read it to me last time.
Yeah, and if you just replace Palestinian,
that's exactly what you did.
Yeah, if you just flip. Okay, so I do remember that, but that was a long time ago. If you flip it around, it's exactly the stuff that the psychopaths in like the war cabinet in Israel say. It's the exact same kind of thing. Oh, well, the collective punishment is deserved because the Palestinian people elected Hamas, so they're the ones that choose them. So therefore, there is a justification, or we do have the right, or whatever, to do collective punishment and to attack them and to perpetually control aspects of their lives, etc.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think I should get out of here because I know there's a lot more, religion and science stuff you want to be talking about. I appreciate you talking to me. I just want to finish this by saying I don't know. I appreciate you talking to me. I think it's a much more deep-rooted issue because, like, it's actively what is being taught in school. So it's not like if you were to stop, those things wouldn't stop being taught. Yeah. Also, go Doug versus Spanky on YouTube.
Doug versus Spanky.
This video and all my videos is on my Patreon ad-free, and you can get a free copy of my first book by being a member too. Plus, your name will appear in the end credits. Thank you.